Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going on a deep dive into this absolutely fascinating intersection of macroeconomic trade friction and a massive transboundary environmental challenge. If you've been tracking the year-to-date headline news trends coming out of Washington and Ottawa, you know we're living through an era of pretty unprecedented supply chain volatility. But we aren't just talking about abstract policy today. We're looking at how the ongoing battles over USMCA tariffs, involving major political figures like US President Donald Trump and Ontario Premier Doug Ford, directly impact a very physical reality. I'm talking about municipal solid waste, or MSW, specifically the millions of tons of it shipped across the border to US-Michigan landfills from Ontario, Canada. More importantly, we're going to explore the groundbreaking tech solution that's emerging right from the field to solve this whole mess.
Here is our agenda for today. We'll kick things off with the CUSMA trade war, then look at the transboundary waste crisis, introduce 905 Wood as the Sentient Bridge, break down their Edge AI workflow execution, and wrap up with digital compliance and sovereignty.
Starting with Section 1, the CUSMA trade war, a decade of rolling uncertainty.
Looking at this timeline, you can really see this rapid, intense escalation of retaliatory friction. Back in February 2025, the Trump administration enacted universal 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. Right in response, just a month later, Premier Doug Ford's government in Ontario hit back by imposing a 25% surcharge on electricity exported to the U.S. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court did strike down those initial broad tariffs in February 2026 in the Learning Resources Inc. v. Trump case, but the friction definitely didn't end there. Sector-specific tariffs remained in place, retaliations continued under Prime Minister Mark Carney, and the whole thing kind of culminated in July 2026 when the U.S. formally declined to renew the CUSMA trade pact in its current form. We're essentially looking at a textbook cycle of cross-border instability here.
So what does this all mean for the real world? Well, the non-renewal on July 1st triggers a 10-year rolling annual review. The treaty is essentially up for renegotiation every single year. For any industry relying on cross-border logistics, long-term supply chain predictability is just completely shattered by this. But here's the thing. Physics and economics simply do not care about political noise. The trash still needs somewhere to go, right?
Moving on to Section 2, the transboundary waste crisis, a highly vulnerable artery.
3.46 million tons. Just think about that number for a second. That is the staggering volume of municipal solid waste imported from Ontario to Michigan annually. To put that into perspective, we're talking about roughly 100,000 semi-truckloads traveling south along Highway 401 every single year, crossing an international border that, as we just established, is becoming incredibly contested and unpredictable.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it visually shows just how dependent the system is. Ontario waste imports make up a massive slice of the pie here, accounting for 14.35% of all waste disposed of in Michigan landfills. It is a critical artery for Ontario's waste management infrastructure, acting as a massive safety valve for the entire province.
But that safety valve is under direct financial threat. Historically, Michigan has charged this dirt-cheap tipping fee of just 36 cents per ton. It made it incredibly affordable for Ontario to just dump its trash there. However, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has proposed a massive fee hike up to $5 per ton to deter out-of-state dumping. This targeted, sub-federal legislation basically acts as an environmental tariff. It directly punishes Ontario's waste exports and fundamentally alters the economics of this entire corridor.
And here is the real ticking clock of this whole scenario. According to the Waste to Resource Ontario State of Waste Report, Ontario's domestic landfill capacity is in rapid decline. Under current export rates, it's totally exhausted by 2037. But if that U.S. border access gets restricted, whether that's due to trade wars or those tipping fee hikes we just looked at, that domestic capacity could be completely depleted as early as 2034. That 3-year drop is huge. So a local domestic solution isn't just a good idea anymore. It's absolutely mandatory.
Which brings us to Section 3, 905 Wood, the Sentient Bridge.
Let's actually break down what this term means. The 905 Wood digital refinery workflow is called the Sentient Bridge because it literally bridges two complete extremes. On one side, you have the totally chaotic, unregulated, mixed stream of construction and demolition waste. On the flip side, you've got the ultra-strict, demanding, high-purity biocarbon market. By processing and upcycling this carbon-rich stream locally right in Ontario, this system basically neutralizes the transboundary waste crisis entirely.
And this brilliantly illustrates why that's a game changer. The standard waste export model is just loaded with liabilities: expensive transport, skyrocketing fleet insurance premiums, trade war tariffs, and endless border delays. Compare that directly to 905 wood upcycling. You process locally, you generate a premium biocarbon commodity that gets huge green premiums in industrial metallurgy, and best of all, you get zero border friction. It literally transforms a municipal liability into a massive domestic circular economy asset.
Let's get into Section 4, Edge AI Workflow Execution, taking the tech into the trenches.
Walk through this seamless hardware-software interface with me. Step 1. Out in the intake yard, an operator just points the Google Pixel 10 Pro camera at a messy pile of construction waste. Step 2. The system instantly runs an offline semantic categorization. Step 3. Based on the volume and density it estimates, it dynamically feeds into a request for quote or RFQ workflow. And the real magic here? This complex analysis happens with absolutely zero latency, completely offline, even if you're in a remote sorting yard with no cellular service.
If we geek out on the specs for a second, you can see exactly how they pull this off. This 905 wood digital refinery workflow is powered by the Google Pixel 10 Pro, running the new Android 16 OS. It relies on the Google LiteRT AI stack, which is specifically optimized for local tensor processing directly on the device's TPU. Pushing this AI all the way to the edge lets operators use real-time offline computer vision to instantly classify wood species, figure out moisture content, and spot contaminants, all without ever needing to ping the cloud.
Now, why does doing this on the edge matter so much? It's because the app executes a 12-stage toxicity characteristic leaching procedure, or TCLP, pre-screening instantly right on the device. Having that immediate automated validation at the source is what prevents contaminated, non-compliant waste from ever making it into the premium biocarbon supply chain to begin with.
And finally, Section 5, Digital Compliance and Sovereignty.
This is where the financial magic happens. To avoid getting hit with those devastating 10% global tariffs at the border, you absolutely need rock-solid proof of origin. The 905 wood system cross-references the scan material with specific classification rules, specifically HTS US 3825.90.0000 for clean biocarbon feedstocks. By completely automating the certificate of origin, it guarantees tariff-exempt status under those super strict CUSMA wholly obtained rules.
So the crucial point is how this proof actually gets packaged and delivered. The digital refinery application workflow UI/UX outputs this data directly into fully compliant, cryptographically tagged PDF documentation. It embeds a SHA-256 hash of the exact on-device scan right into the metadata itself. This creates a tamper-proof, fully auditable chain of custody. If Customs and Border Protection agents demand verification, the operator just pulls up the PDF. It completely eliminates the massive regulatory failure risks standard exporters face on a daily basis.
And I can't stress enough how high the stakes are here. To quote the source analysis directly, missing even one of these digital verification steps triggers denied entry, massive back duty assessments, and some severe penalties. Under Article 9 of bilateral transboundary agreements, hauling unvetted waste across the border triggers skyrocketing fleet insurance premiums because of the sheer environmental liability. Having this bulletproof digital tracing is really the only way to survive in this market.
But you know, keeping it domestic offers an even bigger, much more immediate reward. By officially processing and diverting this wood waste under Ontario's General Waste Regulation, known as OREG 347, the system completely avoids the standard $60 per ton domestic landfill tipping fee. When you do the math on millions of tons, that is a frankly ridiculous amount of money saved. It's the ultimate win-win scenario. You transform a municipal garbage liability into a highly valuable clean energy commodity, all while keeping that capital right at home in Ontario. So, to tie it all together for you today, customer friction and tariffs are a severe threat to cross-border supply chains. Because of that, Ontario's vital 3.46 million-ton waste export corridor to Michigan is practically collapsing under the weight of legislative and economic pressure. But by bringing the Google Pixel 10 Pro and the LiteRT AI stack right into the trenches, 905 wood processes that waste locally. Their cryptographic PDF outputs guarantee compliance, dodge massive tipping fees, and ultimately secure Ontario's industrial leadership in the global circular bioeconomy.
I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. We've seen how macro geopolitics can trap entire industries in a rolling cycle of uncertainty. But physics and economics, they remain absolute constants. In an era of closing borders and rolling trade uncertainty, is operationalizing Edge AI in the trenches the only true path left to engineer regional economic sovereignty? It's a fascinating question, and one that the waste management and clean energy sectors are answering in real time as we speak. Thanks so much for joining me for this deep dive explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the systems around you.